This episode of Off the Leash Podcast is sponsored by Skinletics. Skinletics is the premier brand in the light therapy space, but now they're in the merchandise space. If you like this sweater, it's an oversized sweatshirt. I wear it every single day. When I wash it, I love it. Check it out on skinletics.com. Use my code MASON20. I'll put it in the description for a special discount at checkout. Let's get into the episode.
Don't call it a thing. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when I hear young entrepreneurs get started, I'm trying to do this thing and I'm working on this app thing. When you say thing, it invalidates it to anybody you're speaking to, and it invalidates it to yourself.
Welcome to Off the Leash Podcast. My name is Mason Shipp. This is episode 7. Really fortunate to have founder and CEO of Stand Plus, Rob Gregg. Rob, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Rob, I want to start and ask about going all the way back to the beginning. So this episode is going to be really cool for us to learn about, talking more about consumer businesses. But tell us about Rob as a kid. What in middle school and high school were you doing that maybe gave you an idea that being an entrepreneur, taking this route may be something for you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It started honestly from 25-cent ice cream and didn't want to ask my parents for a couple of quarters. And so I figured out real quick that my neighbors had plants and dogs and things like that. So I just went door to door. And for me, getting $1 to water the yard and walk a dog is like, great. I got ice cream for myself and 3 friends. So that's kind of honestly what started it. And then when this thing called the stock market hit my radar, I was about age 10. And this thing called the internet came out, and I was talking with my dad, and he was like, so, all right, let's see if we can teach a little bit about this. So pick a stock. I picked this company called Yahoo at the time. It was a brand new startup. And I had saved up $1,000 and I put it into Yahoo. And I just remember opening up the newspaper, seeing it in bold black letters in the Wall Street Journal because it had had such a meteoric rise day over day. And with my dad, he's going, this is not the lesson that I was trying to teach you. Stocks don't just do this all the time. You win some, you lose some. But this thing really took off. And it was exciting to see that something just like walking dogs and watering plants could go into something like the stock market and start to create some real revenue and interest. And so for me, that really sparked it. And then I was always a tinkerer. I love taking things apart, putting back together. I got in trouble once for taking apart a drill that I could not put back together. So I learned that lesson once. Don't take something apart, you can't put it back. But I just like building things. And I always loved solving problems. And I think that's probably where the drive for me comes from, is really what are problems that are unsolved for people? And can I play a role in that? For a while in my early career, I was joining companies that were helping solve it. And at one point I kind of had this moment of, well, I'm playing such a huge role with these businesses solving problems. Why not bet on myself and see if I can do this on my own? And so I think that drive from solving problems and the opportunity to see that I could make something a lot greater than just a couple dollars in the yard by having some funds of my own, being smart with my investments, and at the end of the day, invested in myself.
What did you major in at university, and what was your experience like in college? How did it help you? How did it hurt you? What was that time like?
Yeah, so I was a business degree, and I was one of 3 undergrad for the Lead School of Business to get my entrepreneurship certificate. So out of 30,000, I was one of 3. And there's a lot of things that came extracurricular. It was actually putting together a business plan, sitting in board meetings and giving pitches. And going through that exercise really took me outside the page, outside of the books, and forced me to think in real world scenarios. And actually, I will always remember I have 2 professors. Laura Cornish was just phenomenal. I was always working on things before class, and she was just a really engaged teacher that was asking me questions about it. And I thought it was really cool that a teacher was taking a vested interest in what I was doing outside of the classroom. And that back and forth, we formed that relationship. Still have a great relationship with her today. And the other one was my sales teacher. I think no matter what it is that you're doing in life, sales is always important. You're selling yourself, you're selling a business, you're selling a product. You need to know how to present an idea and garner interest. So I had a teacher, Laura Swan, and I got a 98 on my first test. She comes up to me after and she goes, listen, clearly you know how to memorize words in a book. Tell you what, if you're happy with this grade, just show up to my class and learn as much as you can, and I'll let you keep that through the rest of the semester. Hyper engaged in that class. I learned how to sell. We did some pitch competitions that ended up winning as well. So those 2 teachers, I think more so than what was in the book, was just their support and belief that, yeah, if you want to do something, go out and do it. And you've got a support team here. And that's really what started my mindset is nobody's ever going to build something totally on their own. Like you playing on a team, know that if you're out on the field by yourself, you're going to get crushed. You need a team behind you. And same goes for business, same goes for life. And what I realize is when you ask for help, that's when you receive it. If you go with an attitude of, I've got everything figured out, it's really hard for people to help. So early on in my career, I learned how to ask for help and received it. And that's just been how I've been rolling forward throughout life. And it's worked out really well for me.
That's great. You mentioned a valuable point there. So I actually have currently doing an internship in sales right now, and I got advice from my advisor here. And they told me in order to do anything in life, if you want to work in business, you want to work in law, you want to be an athlete, you need to know how to sell a product, you need to know how to sell yourself. And that's where I learned that sales is super valuable. But now transitioning, you just mentioned but before doing it for yourself, you did it for other companies. You worked at like companies like CAA, Rock Nation. What was your experience working at these companies like for you, and how did it prepare you for now doing it on your own?
Yeah, a lot of it was intrapreneurship. So that means developing within. It was an incredibly valuable experience for me because I got to hang my hat under an amazing organization with access, reach, level of deals that would have taken me years to form on my own. So being in that environment was really such a blessing. And in that, what I realized is there's some areas and opportunities that I found myself uniquely positioned to solve that weren't being solved. Not that they're not great, phenomenal companies, but I found something that for me was a problem and I wanted to address it. And I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to go out and do it. Granted, I asked for forgiveness, not for permission. So I presented it after I had worked on it, took a risk on it, and it worked out. That led to some rapid development within the company. That in particular was how do we get departments to connect and when brands come in to connect cross departmentally. So rather than an actor coming in saying, do you have my script that's coming up? We have that, but what are we talking about with licensing and endorsements and sponsorships? And hey, are you interested in gaming? We've got a new division for that. Hey, interested in music? And vice versa with brands. Yeah, you want X talent for the Super Bowl, but let's talk about our roster and every other area that we can activate. And what that did was built long-term vision and long-term partnerships and made it really sticky for an organization. So I followed that trend, and it wasn't until later in life that somebody pinpointed what it was that made me stand out. This is one of the nicest compliments anyone's ever paid to me. She goes, "You don't just solve problems, you turn problems into greatness." And that stuck with me. And what I realized is if your pipe's leaking, I'm not the guy that's going to come in and put a piece of duct tape over it. What I'm going to do is figure out why did it leak in the first place and see if we can build it better so it never happens again. And as soon as she shared that with me, it changed the way that I thought about doing business. That's actually probably what pushed me to start my own is, well, what am I doing here at the end of the day in some of these companies? Do I have the opportunity to build a better plumbing or am I putting patches on things? And I got to the point where the vision that I had exceeded the opportunity that I had within some of these companies. And that pushed me to, well, if I'm actually going to go out and create a fundamental change and I don't have the ability to do that within this organization, let me start my own.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate you sharing that. And a question I have as a follow up to that: a lot of entrepreneurs, from what I'm experiencing at Yale and then other places, when they're young, they are kind of hesitant of going into business or starting their own business right away. What would you say for somebody who's trying to work on a startup, about kind of just getting right into it versus actually getting some experience in an established organization before they start?
Yeah, experience comes in many forms. It can come from shadowing someone. It can come from having a mentor. It can come from working in an organization. It can come from reading. Honestly, I used to read a book every weekend. So in 2018, I read 52 books. Learned a ton through that. It was an amazing experience. So knowledge can come in any shape or form. I think it's specific to the person and how you personally learn. So my advice on that would be, just because someone said it works for them, you got to know yourself. How do you respond well? Do you respond well to tutoring? Do you like reading? Do you like doing? Like, what is your method of learning? And focus on finding those environments that foster that learning mechanism, because that's where you're going to succeed and grow fastest. If you are going to go out and start your own business, there's a couple things behind it. One, don't call it a thing. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when I hear young entrepreneurs get started, I'm trying to do this thing and I'm working on this app thing. When you say thing, it invalidates it to anybody you're speaking to and it invalidates it to yourself. It says you don't fully believe in it. You don't say, yeah, I'm going to do this marriage thing or I'm going to do this kid thing. I'm getting married. I'm having a kid. You commit. And so internally, if you don't feel that strongly about it, I would strongly encourage to keep going. There's a lot of tools that you can put together as well. For me personally, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to do a business that's a copycat or slightly better version of something. I want to create something fundamentally new, which means you got to listen and you got to ask. So best advice that I can have is if you have an idea for something, don't keep it so precious. I know there's this culture around, well, I can't tell anybody until I get it in this good spot. You're never going to know if it's good or bad. It's just going to live within your head. And so I would start with doing a Google survey a lot of times. And for friends and family of mine that are looking to start businesses, just ask some questions and send it out and see what people say. And if it's seeming like there's a real interest and there's a real buzz, that's free to do. Takes you less than an hour to put together. Everyone's got social media these days. You can share it around. You get some real-time feedback before you ever put any energy into it. Just find out, is there really a strong need for this? And there's a lot of steps that if we have more time, I'm happy to go into, but I would start from there. And then the last thing that I would say is I've learned this because I've been fired from a company before. A lot of them I've quit as well. And I haven't always had a whole bunch of finances behind me. What I would say on the financial piece, you got to make sure that you can eat. Because I've tried to start a business when I couldn't pay my rent and I didn't know where my meals were going to come from. And that made it really stressful, so much so that I couldn't put my full heart and energy into what I was building. I had to work a whole bunch of other jobs that just ate up my mental space. So make sure that you've got a little bit of runway, roof over your head, something to eat. That's it. You don't need a party budget. You don't need clothes budget, these other things. Just make sure your basic needs are covered. The flip side to that is you don't need a lot of runway because it doesn't take that long to get a job. Let's say it takes 3 months. I mean, you could get a recruiter, you got to pay a commission on it, but you can get placed in 30, 60, 90 days, no problem. So as long as you've got at least that much, just know in the back of your mind that there will always be a job out there for you somewhere. It might not be the one that you like, but you can find a way to make ends meet. So if you've got 3 months of runway, you've got hope and a dream and a passion beyond all belief that if this is what I dedicate the rest of my life to, I'm going to be happy. Go for it. And if it fails, that's okay. You're going to learn a lot in the process and you still got some time that you can go sit at a desk or you can go work at a coffee shop and make ends meet. But what you can't get is time back. The earlier you are, the younger you are, that you feel compelled that you're a key holder, you're someone who can uniquely open a door that no one else can, go for it. Take the risk, take the jump. You're never going to let that parachute open if you don't get that opportunity to fall and let the wind build and see if that thing can catch you.
Most definitely. Rob, you had an opportunity when you, correct me if I'm wrong, your first shoe you started with was Rob McAllen. I wanted to ask about that and kind of what you learned from, that experience and, obviously your love for shoes started before Gales and Stan Plus. Bring me back there and talk about that.
Yeah, so I was working 16-hour days in a mailroom at CAA when I got promoted, and I was getting crushed. Nike had the Cole Haan Air insoles at the time, which were pretty good, still not great. And I figured there's got to be a better way. It didn't exist. I put an image online, 250,000 hits later on a site called Stumble Upon, met a local Italian master craftsman. I go in, he quotes me something like $1,800 to make this custom pair of shoes. And I'm going, I can't afford that, but I want to get it done. How do we do this? So I cut him a deal. I ended up volunteering, sweeping up around the shop, picking up scraps to pay off my dues. And in turn, he taught me how to make shoes. And what I realized is not much has changed in how shoes are made. They look a little different materials, different colorways, things like that. But the core basic constructions and elements unchanged for hundreds of years. So me coming in fresh, go, well, what happens if we pull out that really stiff part? What happens if we put something in here that feels a little bit softer? And the end result was a pair of shoes just for myself that flexed and breathed and felt like socks. And candidly, that was it at the time. There's a problem that I had that I wanted to solve, and I accomplished that. Well, this funny thing happened. Everywhere I walked, people started to ask me, who makes these shoes? Where can I get these shoes? And it kind of got in this whole, I make them, but who makes them? But I physically make them. No way. Yeah. Can you make me some? No, I don't have 4 months to kill. Well, what I did is I put a splash page coming soon, name, shoe size, email address. And when people would come up to me, I said, listen, if I ever make this into a business, you'll be the first to know. I had 360 people on a wait list in the course of a year. It's almost a stranger day. I was so compelled by these shoes that they caught their eye and they said, I will buy these from you if you make them. So that's really what fueled it initially, was clearly there's some demand. I don't know how big it is, but there are people out there that would buy this. How hard can it be to start a shoe business? Let me tell you, the next 18 months, pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. burned through my life savings, working with people that doctored their invoices way up, charged me, swapped my materials out. It was rough. I was getting kicked in the teeth, not unlike playing sports. I was an athlete my whole life too and played some pretty rough sports. And so I was used to taking a beating. And it took me a while at first because it's hard on you when you've got an idea and you want to have a hopeful view of the world and you run across some not great folks. And how do you keep going? How do you keep motivated? Well, something in me, when I finally got my first physical product, I saw it and I could see that vision so clear. I did not know how I was going to make it work, but I just put faith in myself and understood that, before me, there was someone else and they didn't have half the technology, half the ability to connect in the world that I do now. So if they were able to get something done out of the back of a car, I've got way more access and tools in this day and age that why not me? So I kept going. I ended up building that, selling shoeboxes out of a shoebox size apartment in New York. And this is where some big learnings came in. One, you really can't be underestimating on how much a business costs. Always overestimate. So you're safe. I didn't do that. So I thought, I've got 6 figures saved up and I could put this thing in. That went by real quick. So I did not plan for how much excess it was going to cost because the business is never what's in the plan. There's going to be extra. So plan for the unexpected. Number 2 piece on it is I did not have enough saved up that I could work on this business full time for 3 months and be okay. I was living in New York, crazy expensive. Well, you know the drill. So I had to go work for another business to pay that off. And it meant that I never really fully committed to that shoe company. Granted, it ended up seeing the light of day, got in GQ, a lot of athletes, celebrities, became profitable, did a lot for charities. It was really fun, but I would consider that a hobby, not a real business, because it never became my full time. This now has become my full time, and if I look critically at it, I think the biggest difference is I fully committed. So when I started this business with Gales, well, a couple of things. One, so Ron McAllen was doing a high-end luxury shoe. Pandemic hit. Not a lot of people are buying luxury shoes to sit on a Zoom call. So I realized the timing, not super great. Product, I loved. Needed a lot more funds to get behind it. Really going to be hard to grab a team of people when COVID hit. Who knows what's going to happen with the world. So for those reasons, I ended up pausing it. Well, then what happened is I found a really big need. And that need was for people that are on their feet, feel comfortable. Started with nurses. Someone close to my family got sick with COVID, 30 years old. We get the phone call saying his body's shutting down. He's not going to make it. His care nurse made an amazing call to use this new ventilator that Ford Motors, of all people, had developed. It saved his life. So I ended up volunteering, spending time with a nurse group here in the States, and just asked, what problems do you have that no one's solving? Let's get into it. And I talked over the course of the year about 1,800 nurses in total, a lot of focus groups, a lot of mentorship, a lot of data and feedback. And what kept coming up over and over again was this problem with their feet. Well, I know shoes. You guys aren't going to buy luxury shoes, but I built something from scratch. Let me see what I can do. What about shoes in particular don't you like? Be very specific. There's a lot of options available. What is missing? What's not there? And it became really, really clear. There wasn't a shoe that protected their feet and protection from fluids. So if you're in the ER and ICU and something spills on the top of your feet, you're not in a good spot. Your Crocs, your On Clouds, they're not protecting you from blood that's got HIV in it, for example. So we're talking to nurses that are contracting life-threatening, in some cases life-ending diseases. All they needed was something as basic as protection for their feet. So it started it. I cold called the parent company of Crocs. You'd be surprised who would pick up the phone. You just got to try and pick up the phone. Don't hide behind an email. Emails are great for follow-ups. Pick up the phone. Show up in person. I used to show up to offices in person, talk to the front desk. Hey, can I post up here and talk to your guys when they come down about shoes? Sure, why not? You just got to ask. So I did that. We had a great conversation. Crocs is Crocs. They've got their deal going. I go, I want to do something a little different. I want to use a compound that's not in these guys. They use it in Prada and Balenciaga. Great. Can I use the Prada and Balenciaga compound, but something that's more consumer friendly? He goes, sure. And I go, well, all right, what about the shoe can I improve on? So the other piece to it, and this is really what led to the evolution into Stan, was the fact that shoes are not built for standing. They're built for a function. A running shoe is built to run. It propels you forward. A hiking shoe is built to hike. It grips the ground. A ballerina flat is built to hold your foot in place so you can get on point. Well, for whatever reason, there hasn't been a shoe that's been developed for off the field, for off the clock, or even on the clock when you're on your feet. And specifically around that, we realized that shoes are designed to store energy and put it up. There wasn't a shoe that was designed to take impact and dissipate it. There's recovery mats. They put them behind the countertops. They go, well, why can't we do that in a shoe? So we did that. We joked, we called it the slowest shoe in the world. And that was really our laser focus for nurses is, hey, you're on your feet all day. Yes, you can move in these shoes, but you're not going to feel like your body got crushed at the end of a 16-hour shift. We backed it. We did a lot of research behind it. Marketing is great, but you really got to get behind a good product. What I would say is a good marketing campaign is a great way for a bad product to fail fast. And it's a great way for a good product to accelerate. So when you put marketing behind something, as soon as that product gets in consumers' hands, you got to back what it is that you're making a claim. And if it doesn't, you got to listen to those one-star reviews. So when we launched, we had some one-star reviews. There's stuff that we did not foresee. Hey, the shoes are squeaking. Why are the shoes squeaking? I don't know. Let me try it out. Shoot, yeah, they do squeak when my foot gets sweaty. So I just played around with it. We added a lining. Doesn't squeak anymore. Great. Let's do that into our next product. I need these shoes to breathe. But you're in these fluid environments where you need protection. Yeah, but a lot of people are outside these. I need them to breathe. Okay, I'll put some holes in it. Hey, I've got wide width. These aren't good for wide width. Okay, let's make them wide width. So when you put it out there, you got to listen to your 1-stars. I think a lot of people lean towards the 5-stars. The best information and value that I've gotten is from people who did not like the product and find out early on, what'd you get wrong? Really hard to get something right. Look at a painter, their first paintings probably sucked. You got to suck before you don't. And you got to be open to learning. And so those 1-star reviews really helped us grow. And then from there, the word of mouth just started to spread. We realized it wasn't just nurses on their feet, it's bartenders, waiters, chefs, healthcare, hospitality. And now in the athletic arena that's found us, players off the field, best thing you can do after a long workout is kick your feet up and take a break. But if you have to be on your feet, you don't want an athletic shoe that's fighting your body and pushing the ground back. That's for on the field. When you're off, you need something that gives it a break. And so we rebranded the company to Stand. Where we sit as a business is turning problems to greatness. What is a problem that no one else is doing? Listen, I love a lot of brands for what they do. I love my Nikes. I love my Brooks. I love my On Clouds for the jobs that they're designed for. What we found is this swim lane that no one was addressing. As it pertains to athletes, as I know, it's probably a lot of listenership here. Playability is key. What's it worth to you to be able to play a full season? How much is it going to cost and sting if you miss a game? What if that game is the championship game? There's things that you can do to help increase your playability. Shoes are such a huge part of your biomechanics. You can have a loose shirt, tight shirt. It's not really going to affect your days, but where your feet hit the floor and the rest of your joints, that whole kinetic chain has a huge impact. Aside from shoes, just in general, got to focus on what you eat, got to focus on how much you sleep, got to focus on your mental health. All these things factor into your playability. So if you're serious about the sport that you love, you got to do these things off the field that make sure you're at your best on the field.
That's great. Yeah. So you mentioned all these different groups that have, as the mission has developed over time, which you started getting into. I was at the barbershop recently, and my barber standing looking at my shoes, like, what you got going on there? So I started breaking it down to him. And he's like, yeah, like I stand all day and my feet hurt. And I'm like, get yourself a pair of these shoes because this is what you mentioned. It's different because it's not for running. It's for standing. And that's the really cool thing about it. So it's funny that you just shared that. I want to transition now to ask some questions about starting a business. So you mentioned a few of these, but what are 2 to 3 things you wish you knew before you started Stand Plus?
Yeah. First one is people and how critically important they are. So you have an idea, you have a business plan, you go, I'll just hire some folks. But you cannot undervalue the value of a good network and a good network with trusted people within it. So it's not just, hey, I know an ops person, I know an ads person, I'll make some intros. They got to be good. Because early on, I didn't have that network and I was hiring people that I got excited about, they had good resumes for. I didn't have a lot of luxury to spend the time vetting, and I really wish that I did. Because we went through some team members until we found the right one. So one, starting a business, any business is about the people and the people that get behind it. What I would say is to find a star candidate, you want to find somebody, it sounds kind of a funny analogy, but it literally takes a shower and is thinking about your business. You want that person who gets up and they're so excited to come to work today. Whatever it is, they don't need to be creative. They can be ops, finance, any of it, but you want to find those people early on. If you don't, what's going to end up happening is you've got a lot of management of a lot of people, and it pulls time away from the vision and growth. So that's probably number one. Number two, profitability is everything. What you should really focus on, even when you have capitalization in the business, is think, if this is coming out of my pocket, this is my last $100, $1,000, $10, would I spend it here to grow the business? And having that really critical filter, because a lot of mistakes that happen with a company, let's get an agency to do a pretty website and all this stuff. It's only 100 grand and we raised $10 million, so it's fine. Well, guess what? If you have that mentality with everything, you're going to burn through it. You're not going to be anywhere. So acting really, really lean with a business. There's a lot of things that you think you need. I thought I needed to have a huge social media presence, constant photo shoots, all these things. We don't have any of that. And the business is growing. So there's a lot of tools that are nice to haves, but focus on the need to haves. What's really, if I'm going to spend this here, is this going to grow my business? And if it doesn't, think critically about it. The flip side is some things you do because they're fun, they make you feel good. We do a lot for charity. That doesn't affect the bottom line. It makes us feel good and we want to give to the community. So there's a balance. The third thing around that, so I've had a co-founder in the past that was the wrong fit. Be really selective about if you're going to have a co-founder or not. There's a huge amount of values in co-founders. I don't have a co-founder in this business because I did not find someone that thought differently than me, that I think could challenge me and push me and grow for this particular industry. If I was doing another industry, I may have some people in mind, but a co-founder should not think like you. You don't want to find someone that's a yes man or a yes woman that's just, yeah, that sounds great, go do your thing. That's a support team, but you also want your support team to push you. But in a co-founder, you want someone who's going to challenge you, who's going to tell you no. And so it still goes back to people, but if you're going to find a co-founder, really good co-founder is not someone who sees the world the same way. They see the world totally different from you. Usually what that dynamic looks like, you get a really good creative mind and a really good financial mind. I think those are critical. If you have them both, phenomenal. It's a rare breed, but if you can be really creative, find someone that's really good at finances. If you're really good at finances, find someone who's really good at creative, because those two need to go hand in hand. And that first year is hypercritical, that you're doing something that has commercial viability on the creative side, but you're making sure you're keeping a really tight eye on your finances.
Rob, what's the biggest challenge in starting a consumer business?
Yeah, biggest challenge is honestly figuring out where to start. And I'm always guilty of this too. And I think more and more I'm getting more relaxed on it. Is just, I see starting a business for me personally as art, and you want it to be great. You're going to push this to the world. And so challenge is if it's not quite right, you don't have the visuals quite there, your messaging's not quite there, that holds a lot of people back from pressing play. Well, the reality is, as good as it is in your mind, when it hits the world, it's going to hit the world critically and you're going to get some feedback. Very, very, very rarely does anybody ever get it perfectly right. So you got to be comfortable putting something out there that's not perfectly polished and listen to feedback to make it polished. But you're not building the business for you. If you're building it for you, it's a hobby. If you're building a real business for consumers, you're building it for your consumers. So you got to take yourself out of the driver's seat. You're obviously the driving force behind it, but who is your audience? What do they care about? What they care about might not be what you care about. We're working with chef organizations. They're slip and fall. They need protection from things spilling on their feet. I'm not a chef. That's not my daily life, but I got to put myself in their shoes. What are the things that are missing for them? What's the value that they see? And just making sure that you can step outside of your own head and into your consumer side. That's challenging. You get really excited as a founder and you've got this strong vision that it's so great, I want to push it forward, but you got to constantly remind yourself, go back to your customers. So I read our customer emails. I answer our DMs. I have a Reddit thread that kind of went a little bit viral. It shows up in the top search results for our company. I talk to my customers constantly, and I will do that until the last day that I'm working for this business. So just making sure to stay grounded and always have that line of communication with customers. It's challenging. The days get busy. Some days you got other priorities, but that is probably the single biggest challenge, is making sure that you always go back to the customers figure out what you can do better, be critical about your business, listen to the things that didn't get right, and rather than brush them off, go, okay, can I incorporate this and make myself a little bit better tomorrow?
That's awesome. One of the last questions I have for you is about manufacturers. You mentioned it's really important in a business. How does one go about finding and vetting manufacturers?
Yeah, call, show up, as step one. But what we want to find is a partner. So the mistake that I made early on with my first footwear business, I went in going, I'm going to get the best deal that I possibly can, meaning I'm going to get terms where I don't pay them until 90 days after I get my product, low deposit, low minimums, all these things. Well, the mistake that I made there is they're looking at me going, well, why would I produce your product if I have other products that give me better terms? They're easy to work with. I make more on it. So the mistake I made was treating it like a business transaction. And a win there is not to get the best terms. A win is to form a relationship, because in manufacturing, things will always go wrong. There's not a brand on this planet that has not had manufacturing challenges. It's just the nature of the business. So what you should look for when you're vetting partners is, do I feel like this person is going to be a partner? And ask questions. So just shoot it to me straight. I know I'm a small startup. You've got other things on your factory floor. Do you guys have the bandwidth to take me on? Find out what's exciting for them. What's a win? How can you be a good partner to them? I obviously know I'm only going to put in a small run. Where do I need to get to realistically for this to be exciting for you? How can we show up for you? I take my factory out to dinner. They take their clients out. I take my partners out. I pay for that. I invest in them. And we've had a lot of challenges. And because we invest in them as people and as our partners, anytime that we've run into challenges, there's the first to jump to find a solution. Whereas previously, with my very first manufacturers, I run into an issue. I was a client, not a partner. It made it very, very difficult for me to get my product. So you want to find people that can be true partners.
1 to 2 books you could recommend for anybody that really helped you out.
Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. I'll give you the cliff note. Your body already knows what it needs to know in a split second. The whole rest of the time is your brain trying to justify it. So Blink really helps you focus on listening to your gut. I can actually send you a list, my reading list of the 52 books that come after it.
That'd be great.
There's another one. Yeah, there's another one by Charles Duhigg. And he talks about why people are buying toothpaste and the emotional connection that it created. So in one of these old campaigns, I think it was Pepsodent, something like that, and they go, so run your tongue across your teeth. There's a TV ad, and people felt, roughness on the teeth. Go brush with Sensodyne and run your tongue across your teeth. It felt smooth. Well, that smoothness that you're feeling is all of the staining and everything gone away. It was all a marketing thing, but what they realized was how to create an emotional connection with the consumer. And this book's chock full of it. And I got to give a shout out to Robert Kiyosaki as well. A lot of things that he's written are phenomenal. One in particular is when you come across with your messaging. So for Pepsi, because their tagline, and I'm sure it's changed now, but at the time it was the best quality products and ingredients and this and that, because that didn't describe anything. It's just a better tagline. What's your mission? Refresh the world. That's a statement. That's a mission. And so I like books that help me simplify. I think there's a lot of decisions that need to be made in a business, and any resources that you can find to help simplify your decision-making process makes you a better entrepreneur. It helps you move more nimbly. Now, you don't want to rush decisions. You want to make the right decisions. But last one, Naveen Jain has a book called Anti-Fragile. He spoke at a conference at Madison Square Garden about, does anybody know what anti-fragile is? Nobody knew. So what's something fragile? A plate. You drop it, it breaks. It's fragile. What's something that's anti-fragile? Somebody goes, a steel ball. No, that's just tough. When you hit it, nothing happens, but it doesn't get better. Because anti-fragile is something that's better with chaos. A forest, when small fires go through, it cleans up the brush, thickens the bark, so it prevents it from burning down when a big fire comes. He goes, your body is anti-fragile. If you laid in bed all day long, you're resilient, you're tough, you just lay in it, your body's going to atrophy. You have to stress it. You go to the gym, you get exercise. The stressors that you put on your body makes it better. And so I love this concept of anti-fragile. And when it comes to building a business, the goal is not security. The goal is to put yourself in these stressor environments that make you better. And you need to be receptive to that. It's not, I'll be resilient, I'll get through, I'll make it. That for me, that's not the approach. The approach is let's go find some chaos and figure out how it can make us better. And that to me is a much better way to grow. And you become stronger because of it, not just resilient through tough times.
Well, hey, we finished every single interview with this one question. I want to ask it to you. What's next for Rob Gregg and Stand Plus?
Well, for Rob Gregg, it's raising this little one right here. This is Mia.
There you go.
She's about to turn 5. Yeah, I won a lot of gold medals in my life. This is my favorite gold medal I ever got, marrying my wife. So I'm really excited to be a dad. And as it pertains to Stand Plus, it's finding more ways that we can get out to people that are experiencing pain. I think there's a lot of amazing shoe companies that service athletes where our swim lane in our particular area is, do you have some significant pain standing on your feet, and can we help solve that? And a lot of what we do is clinical studies, which we're pushing through. We're working with some of the 3-letter professional sports leagues around real studies, real data, real science. We've got a medically backed as well. And so for us as a company, making sure that we're continually refining the product, pushing forward real studies around real health benefits for the shoes. And overall, what we'd like to do as a business is just provide relief in every step. It's not about having the flashiest shoe or the hypest shoe or getting on StockX and the number one trading shoe of the day. It's about making people feel a little bit more comfortable on their feet.
Well, Rob, we really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate you joining. I have to do it because I'm on the show. I wear your shoes every day. They're awesome. Really
Hey,
appreciate you. And there we go. We got the same one on. And it's really great having you on this podcast today. Thanks so much.
yeah, appreciate having me here.